Okay, so I want to tell a story today, and that story is about how one of my aunts in my family do not talk to me because they think that I, at the age of 16, did something with her partner at the time. And I have been a nervous wreck to talk about something like this and to tell this story. A, because of my family. B, because I don't want people, it's not to hurt people to tell my story. But at the same time, I've been working through this so much in therapy, and this is something that goes way deep to my core in terms of worthiness and how I feel about myself. And it's been...
Tamar Braxton exposes the real reason Toni fired her from the show, Family Shocked. The internet didn't just gasp, it stopped breathing. Because the moment Tamar Braxton finally broke her silence, everything the world thought it knew about the Braxton family collapsed in real time. This wasn't a rumor. This wasn't shade. This was a detonation. One leaked voicemail, one trembling confession, and suddenly the question everyone had whispered for years was screaming across timelines. Why was Tamar really fired from the family show? And the answer. According to Tamar, it wasn't the network. It wasn't ratings. It wasn't her attitude. It was her own sister, Toni Braxton. The audio hit like a punch to the chest. Tamar's voice cracking, shaking between rage and heartbreak, as she said the words no one ever expected to hear. Toni got me fired. Not the producers. Toni. Fans froze. Group chats exploded. Twitter went feral. Because what Tamar revealed next flipped the entire legacy upside down. She claims she was removed to protect a secret so explosive, so humiliating, that Toni allegedly couldn't risk Tamar staying on camera 1 second longer. Within minutes, old clips resurfaced. Cold stares. Awkward silences. Moments that suddenly looked less like sister tension and more like strategy. Tamar wasn't being dramatic, she was being erased. And when she got too close to telling the real story on camera, the call was allegedly made: get her off the show. But here's the part that made fans sick to their stomachs. Tamar says this wasn't just business. It was a sacrifice. One sister had to fall so the other could rise. And as the voicemail ended, Tamar dropped one final line that set the internet on fire. I stayed quiet out of love, but love almost destroyed me. The voicemail didn't sound rehearsed. That's what made it terrifying. Tamar's voice was low, uneven, like she'd been holding something in for years and it finally ripped its way out. I didn't lose my job, she said. I was removed. That single word reframed everything. Removed doesn't happen by accident. Removed happens when someone decides you're a problem that needs to disappear. Within minutes of the clip leaking, fans realized this wasn't another Tamar meltdown. This was a confession. And the name she said next changed the temperature of the entire internet. Toni. According to Tamar, the betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was slow. Surgical. She claimed it started the moment producers told her they wanted more vulnerability, more honesty, more real family tension on camera. Tamar, never one to play polished, said she was ready. She wanted to talk about the resentment, the favoritism, the way she'd always been treated like the extra sister. But what she didn't know was that Toni had already been working behind the scenes, quietly planting seeds. Tamar says meetings started happening without her. Conversations she was supposed to be in suddenly forgot to include her. And when she asked what was going on, she was told she was being paranoid. That's when the first alleged text surfaced. A screenshot from a former crew member that sent shockwaves across Twitter. It showed Toni telling a producer, She's unstable right now. You can't trust what she'll say. Fans spiraled. Because that wasn't concern. That was positioning. Tamar claims that word, unstable, followed her everywhere after that. Suddenly, every emotional reaction she had was used as proof she was a liability. Crying meant she was dramatic. Speaking up meant she was aggressive. Staying quiet meant she was guilty. No matter what she did, the narrative was already written. Then came the confrontation Tamar says never aired. Filmed during a family dinner, cameras rolling, microphones hot. Tamar asked Toni directly why she felt pushed out. According to Tamar, Toni didn't yell. She didn't cry. She looked calm, cold, and said, "You're messing up everything." The footage that aired showed Tamar storming away, yelling, labeled once again as the problem. But Tamar claims what viewers never saw was the sentence right before that moment. "If you keep talking," Toni allegedly said, "you're going to ruin us." That line detonated online when Tamar repeated it. Because it implied there was something to ruin. Something fragile. Something being protected. And Tamar says she knew exactly what it was. A situation from years earlier that Toni had buried deep, involving a powerful industry figure, and a deal that was never meant to see daylight. Tamar didn't go into full detail yet, but she didn't have to. Fans started connecting dots on their own. The timing of Toni's image rebrand. The sudden emphasis on peace, healing, and class. The disappearance of certain people from her orbit. Tamar says she never planned to expose it, but the mere possibility that she could made her dangerous. The firing itself, Tamar says, was brutal in its quietness. No meeting. No warning. No explanation. Her contract was pulled. Her upcoming scenes vanished. Promotional material was re-edited like she'd never existed. And the way she found out? Through lawyers. Not a single call from Toni. Not a text. Not even a "we need to talk." Tamar said that silence hurt more than anything. She let everyone else do it, Tamar said, while she stayed clean. Social media chaos erupted as fans re-watched old seasons with new eyes. Clips of Toni rolling her eyes when Tamar spoke. Cutting her off. Dismissing her feelings. Moments once brushed off, as sibling tension now felt deliberate. Strategic. Even celebrities began chiming in subtly, posting cryptic messages about family betrayal and being silenced. Meanwhile, Toni stayed silent. No denial. No statement. Just business as usual. And that silence only made the story louder. Then Tamar dropped another bomb. She claimed the network didn't just fire her, they tried to reshape her story after the fact. Scenes that showed her breaking down were cut without context. Conversations where Toni appeared shaken were removed entirely. Tamar was edited into the role she'd always been forced to play, the unstable sister. A former assistant editor allegedly backed this up, claiming entire episodes were restructured to protect the face of the show. When that allegation hit, fans felt sick. Because it meant they'd been watching a character, not a person. The most painful reveal came near the end of Tamar's confession. She said she begged for a private conversation after everything happened. No cameras. No producers. Just sisters. She sent a message saying, "I know what you did. I forgive you. I just need to understand why." The reply, Tamar says, still echoes in her head. "This is bigger than us. Bigger than us." That's when Tamar realized it was never about family. It was about survival. About control. About choosing image over blood. As the first wave of revelations settled, one thing became clear. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't a heat-of-the-moment decision. It was calculated, planned, executed. And Tamar ended her first disclosure with a warning that made even her supporters uneasy. "I've been quiet," she said. "But I have receipts. And if I'm pushed again, I won't protect anyone." The clip cut there. And across the internet, one thought echoed louder than the rest. If this is what Tamar is willing to say now, what is she still holding back? The warning didn't fade. It multiplied. Because within hours of Tamar saying she had receipts, the leaks didn't slow down, they escalated. Screenshots began circulating from an alleged group chat between producers, time-stamped just weeks before her firing. The tone was chilling. Not emotional. Not chaotic. Surgical. One message jumped out and went viral instantly: "We can't afford Tamar going off script. Toni's concerned." Concerned. That word felt harmless until people realized it was being used as a weapon. Concern meant control. Concern meant intervention. And intervention meant removal. Then came the second voice recording. Shorter. Sharper. Tamar wasn't crying this time. She was furious. "They were already editing me out while I was still filming," she said. "I'd walk into a scene and feel it. Like I didn't belong there anymore." She described moments where producers would suddenly stop rolling when she spoke, but restart when Toni entered the room. Fans replayed old episodes and noticed it. Tamar talking. Cut. Toni reacting. Full screen. It wasn't subtle once you saw it. It was systematic. The family's reaction made everything worse. Or rather, the lack of it. Evelyn Braxton's silence became deafening. Tamar finally addressed it in a late-night live that shook viewers. "When I told my mother I was fired," Tamar said, staring straight into the camera, "she didn't ask why. She said, sometimes one person has to go so the family can stay in order." That sentence hit harder than any producer leak. Because it confirmed Tamar wasn't just fighting a network. She was fighting a family hierarchy that had always placed Toni at the top. Fans weren't surprised, they were heartbroken. Old interviews resurfaced of Evelyn openly calling Toni the backbone of the family. Clips of Tamar being dismissed as extra suddenly felt cruel instead of funny. And then Tamar revealed the part she said she'd never forgiven. "When I was spiraling," she admitted, "when I couldn't get out of bed, when I didn't want to be here anymore, nobody came. Nobody except Tracy." That's when the story took a darker turn. Tamar said Tracy showed up quietly, off camera, with no agenda. She allegedly told Tamar she overheard a phone call between Toni and a producer. "Either she goes," Tracy reportedly heard Toni say, "or I'm done." According to Tamar, Tracy begged her not to confront Toni publicly. Not because Tamar was wrong, but because Toni was scared. "If you talk," Tracy allegedly warned her, "the whole house falls." That line became a rallying cry online. Because suddenly, everything made sense. The next leak came from someone inside production, anonymous, verified by multiple drama outlets. They claimed a secret meeting took place without Tamar present. Toni. Evelyn. Executive producers. No cameras. No notes. Just a decision. The source alleged Toni made it clear she would not film another scene if Tamar stayed. And with contracts, endorsements, and brand deals on the line, the network folded. Tamar wasn't fired because she was difficult. She was fired because she was expendable. Social media erupted into full warfare. #Justice for Tamar trended for days. Fans reposted clips of Toni cutting Tamar off mid-sentence. rolling her eyes, dismissing her feelings. Moments once written off as sibling tension were now seen as power plays. Even celebrities started speaking without naming names. "Family will silence you quicker than strangers," one singer tweeted. Another posted, "Never be the truth teller in a brand built on silence." Everyone knew who they were talking about. Then Tamar dropped another bomb that shifted the narrative from betrayal to survival. She claimed that around the time she was fired, Toni was finalizing a high-profile deal that required a clean family image. Less chaos. Less controversy. Less Tamar. "I was bad for business," Tamar said flatly. "Not because I was wrong. Because I was real." According to Tamar, producers told her to tone it down, to stop reacting, to stop crying, to play the role they'd already written for her. When she refused, she became a liability. The infamous therapy episode came back into focus. Fans remembered Tamar walking out in tears, labeled once again as unstable. But Tamar revealed that was the day she found out the decision had already been made. "That wasn't a breakdown," she said. "That was grief." She claimed Toni barely looked at her that day. Already detached. Already done. And when Tamar tried to speak privately afterward, Toni allegedly said one sentence that still haunts her. "You're going to ruin everything. Not us. Not the family. Everything." The internet froze when Tamar hinted at the real reason behind that fear. She said Toni wasn't protecting the family, she was protecting herself. A situation from the past. A relationship that crossed lines. Money that changed hands. Tamar didn't spell it out yet, but she didn't need to. The implication was enough. Fans began speculating wildly, pulling old interviews, timelines, sudden career shifts. And through it all, Toni stayed silent. No denial. No clarification. Just distance. The most painful reveal of this chapter came when Tamar spoke about Tracy again. Her voice softened. "She told me she tried to stop it," Tamar said. "She told me she fought for me when I wasn't in the room." According to Tamar, Tracy warned her the show would move forward without her no matter what. And that warning broke Tamar in a way the firing never could. Because it confirmed she was outnumbered. Outsmarted. Outplayed by her own blood. As night fell and the second wave of leaks settled, one thing was undeniable. This wasn't about ratings. It wasn't about behavior. It was about power. And Tamar ended this chapter with a line that made even her supporters nervous. "I've been protecting people who never protected me," she said. "And the reason I stayed quiet for so long is because the truth doesn't just hurt feelings. It destroys images." She paused. Then added, "But I'm done being the shield." The video cut. The internet went silent. And everyone knew the next reveal wouldn't just be emotional. It would be devastating. The silence after that confession was unbearable. And then Tamar shattered it. She went live again without warning. No glam. No intro music. Just her face, eyes swollen, hands shaking, like she'd finally reached the point where fear mattered less than truth. "You'll keep asking what Toni was so scared of," she said quietly. "I'm gonna tell you." The comments exploded before she could finish the sentence. And then she said the word that turned the entire story nuclear. Extortion. The internet froze. Tamar claimed the reason she was labeled a liability wasn't because she was loud or emotional, but because she knew too much about a situation Toni thought was buried forever. According to Tamar, years earlier, during a critical moment in Toni's career, there was a relationship with a powerful, married industry figure. Not gossip. Not a fling. A mess. One that allegedly involved money changing hands to keep certain details quiet. Tamar said she was there. She saw the panic. She heard the promises. And when that man resurfaced years later with receipts, Toni's camp went into crisis mode. Here's where Tamar became dangerous. Not because she planned to expose it, but because reality TV made exposure possible. All I had to do was exist on camera, Tamar said. I didn't have to say a word. According to her, the threat wasn't Tamar talking. It was Tamar being unscripted. And when that being dramatic, Toni allegedly told her to stop playing victim. That moment broke something in Tamar permanently. I wasn't being dramatic, she said through tears. I was scared. The next reveal hit like a gut punch. Tamar claimed Evelyn made a deal with the network, one that gave Toni more control over how she was portrayed in exchange for Evelyn stepping back publicly. Fans immediately clocked the timeline. Evelyn's presence on the show faded just as Toni's solo image sharpened. Suddenly, it didn't look like retirement. It looked like a trade. One voice silenced so another could shine. And Tamar. She was collateral. Then Tamar brought up Tracy again, and this time, the internet couldn't hold it together. Tamar said producers approached Tracy shortly before her passing, offering her opportunities on one condition: don't mention Tamar. Not even once. Tamar said Tracy refused. She told me, they're trying to erase you from the family history, Tamar recalled, crying openly. And she said no. That moment became sacred online. Fans called Tracy the only one who chose truth over checks. The only one who didn't flinch. By this point, the Braxton brand was bleeding. Former crew members started leaking production memos anonymously. Editors confirmed scenes were cut. Arguments muted. Context stripped. One leaked clip showed Toni whispering to Evelyn off-camera, "If she goes public, we're all done." That clip went viral before it could be scrubbed. And just like that, denial became impossible. Tamar wasn't finished. She revealed she kept copies. Raw footage. Uncut audio. Moments the network thought were deleted forever. They edited me into a villain, she said. But the raw footage tells a different story. She claimed her lawyers had sent formal requests, demanding the release of unaired material from the final season. If they've got nothing to hide, Tamar said, staring into the camera, let the world see it. Toni still hadn't responded. No statement. No denial. Just carefully curated Instagram posts filled with luxury, peace quotes, and silence. That silence enraged fans more than any argument ever could. Celebrities began weighing in. Michelle tweeted support. Tamar's ex reposted clips with captions about truth always resurfacing. The narrative had fully flipped. Tamar wasn't the problem anymore. She was the threat to a carefully built illusion. Then came Tamar's final move. In one last video, she looked calm. Resolved. Dangerous in a different way. This isn't about revenge, she said. It's about acknowledgement. She demanded a public admission from Toni. Not private. Not off-camera. Public. Say I didn't deserve it, Tamar said. Say I wasn't the problem. Say I was your sister, not your shield. She gave them 7 days. 7 days before she releases everything. Every clip. Every audio file. Every moment they thought they buried. The countdown began immediately. Fans held their breath. Media outlets circled. And still, silence. The final words Tamar said before ending the stream echoed across the internet like a warning shot. You didn't just fire me, she said softly. You buried me alive. And now I'm digging myself out with the truth. The screen went black. And the question hanging in the air felt heavier than anything she'd said before. If this is what Tamar was willing to reveal, what happens when she finally releases what she's been protecting all along? And this is where you come in, because stories like this don't end quietly, they explode. What you just watched isn't the finale, it's the warning shot. When silence gets this loud, it means something is about to break. Either the truth comes out, or someone finally cracks. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the moment everyone else will be talking about for years. If you leave now, you'll wake up to headlines that won't make sense without this context. Clips will surface. Statements will drop. Narratives will flip overnight. And the people who weren't here from the beginning will be scrambling to catch up, wondering how everything unraveled so fast. This is one of those moments where celebrity drama stops being entertainment and turns into exposure, the kind that changes legacies. So don't let this disappear in the algorithm. Hit like right now so this stays visible. Drop a comment and say what you really think, because the conversation itself is becoming part of the story. And most importantly, subscribe and turn notifications on. Not tomorrow. Not later. Right now. Because if Tamar really releases what she says she has, it won't trickle out, it will detonate. Missing the next update won't just feel like missing a video. It'll feel like missing the truth while it was happening. Stay locked in. Stay watching. Because when this silence finally breaks, it's going to shake everything.